What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to get into my top waiver wire claims for week 3 of the fantasy football season. We're going to go over my top 5 running backs, wide receivers, and a nice little potpourri of quarterbacks and tight ends. I don't know if I used potpourri in the right context there, but it sounded immaculate. Now, all of these players are going to be under 50% owned on ESPN. I'm going to be dropping a full waiver wire article tomorrow on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. It's going to go through every single player that I think is worth picking up and what percent fab I would spend on all of them, because one, I haven't dug into, the fab bids. I haven't even done the fab bids myself for my teams. And, I got to give some exclusivity to the Patreon. Now, with that being said, if you want daily fantasy football content to make sure you guys are locked and loaded for your championships from now up until week 17 in December, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm critical.
So how we're going to do this is we're going to highlight, my priority ad at each position, a guy that I would spend over 15% or more of my fab budget on. And that at the running back position is going to be Tony Pollard. He's my only priority ad at the position, and it's for good reason. Through 2 weeks now, Tony Pollard is the RB9 and Ezekiel Elliott is the RB25. Pollard has outproduced Ezekiel Elliott in rushing, receiving. He's had a longer rush and reception last week than Zeke. He's much more explosive. And I have no clue how he's on 38.6% of waivers at this point. He was a 9th or 10th rounder on my board, and there's a chance. There's a small chance that he might even be better than Zeke. He is that talented. He is too talented to be on waivers. And I've been banging this drum all offseason. I had this graphic I've been putting up in all of these videos. Hopefully you guys have been with me through the offseason and you guys drafted Pollard on some of your teams, because Pollard last year in that bad situation, everyone wants to say, throw Ezekiel Elliott's season out last year. It was a bad situation. The O-line was bad. Dak was hurt, so Andy Dalton was playing, and I completely understand that. But in the same exact situation, Tony Pollard had a better rush grade, yards after contact per attempt, breakaway run percentage, and elusive rating than Ezekiel Elliott last year. And this team wants to give playmakers their ball regardless of what position they play. Pollard now has 16 touches on 31% of snaps. That's insane. That means most of the time when he's on the field, the Cowboys want to scheme him a touch, whereas Ezekiel Elliott has 18 touches on 74% of the snaps. That was last week, so week 2. And when you have a situation like that where the team wants to scheme Pollard touches, that means as he plays into this role, they're going to want to scheme him more touches. And now we have Gallup, who's hurt, and we also have Amari Cooper, who might be hurt for a week or two, where he has like a bruised rib or something. So they could scheme Tony Pollard that many more touches. Tony Pollard is probably going to be a massive fab bid in your leagues. And if you need somebody at your RB2 spot, RB spot, whether that's hero RB and zero RB, I think that you probably have to try and match it. Then we have Kenny Gainwell, who didn't do anything spectacular this week, but he shouldn't be owned in 29% of leagues. We already mentioned him last week. I loved him as a prospect. He was my RB4 pre-draft. He's a very solid prospect. He's good in the pass catching game. He's good in the running game. He might have even outplayed Antonio Gibson as a true freshman. Something crazy like that at Memphis when they had that huge stable of like Pollard, Darrell Henderson, Tony Pollard. Kenny Gainwell as a freshman played with a couple of those dogs, and Kenny Gainwell is now in a spot where he is firmly, I wouldn't even say change of pace back. I would say, like I was saying last week, kind of like Nyheim Hines in Sirianni's offense, where he's playing a third of snaps. He has standalone upside, and if Miles Sanders went down, Kenny Gainwell would be a 50% plus fab bid. So I'm trying to grab him because I'm betting on talent. I love him as a talent. There's a range of outcomes out there where he's literally better than Miles Sanders. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but there is a possibility where that is the case. And then there's also a possibility where Miles Sanders gets hurt and Kenny Gainwell becomes an absolute stud. Then we have another kind of like a handcuff, but he has some standalone value. We have J.D. Mckissic. And sadly for my boy Antonio Gibson, Mckissic seems to be the third down and 2-minute drill guy. We had on Thursday night, we saw Mckissic go for 17.8 fantasy points. We saw 93 total yards, 5 catches, a touchdown. He vultured that touchdown from Antonio Gibson at the goal line. So he has this weird role in this offense where he can be productive. And what people don't understand is Mckissic was a stud wide receiver in college. So he is kind of like Antonio Gibson, where he is also a converted wide receiver to running back. And that probably should have been a red flag when we were drafting Gibson. Not that Gibson is like a loss or anything. It's that upside that we're hoping for, like top 3 running back upside. It seems a little bit muddied. And the thing about Mckissic is that out of Arkansas State, he had like 103 catches as a redshirt freshman. So he had more catches in one season, but it is Arkansas State versus Memphis. But he had more catches in one season than Antonio Gibson had in his entire career at Memphis. So that is worth noting. And Mckissic has some flex appeal. He's going to be a PPR monster where he's going to get these catches in the 2-minute drill and the third downs. So it sucks for Gibson, but McKissic is going to have his role, so he deserves to be rostered. And if Gibson ever went down, McKissic would be obviously a stud. Now we have Alexander Mattison And there's not much here besides wanting to have Dalvin Cook's handcuff. Dalvin Cook is somebody who has been hurt his entire career. He has some kind of shoulder thing going on. Cook left the game like 3 times on Sunday. He got like bent backwards in all kinds of different places. I think he's going to be fine, but I think it just kind of reinforced the idea that Dalvin Cook is fragile. He's missed a minimum of 2 games in his last 2 years. And in games without Dalvin Cook, Mattison has been that workhorse where he comes in and he's averaged 18 carries and targets in those games. So in the event that Dalvin Cook is to go down, Mattison would be very valuable. Now, our last running back on this list is going to be Ty Johnson. And it seems like Ty Johnson and Michael Carter, these Jets running backs, have supplanted Tevin Coleman already. We're in week 2. We saw Ty Johnson get 45% of the snaps and 12 opportunities, whereas Tevin Coleman got 5 opportunities and 10% of the snaps. So we're seeing Michael Carter and Ty Johnson move up the depth chart. We're seeing Tevin Coleman come back. And now there's this race between Michael Carter and Ty Johnson for that lead back role. And you're essentially betting for free a guy you can get off waiver wire. You're betting that Ty Johnson can become that 1A. Now, Michael Carter could also get hurt. So there's a lot of different things. I don't know. There's like a flyover on my mic, but there's a lot of different things going on where Ty Johnson has that path to upside. And I just really like his build as well. He has a similar profile to that Elijah Mitchell, Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, all that stuff that worked over there on the 49ers. We now have LaFleur, who comes from Shanahan's system as the OC for the Jets. Ty Johnson's skill set really fits in that system. Then we're going to move on to the wide receivers. And at wide receiver, we have one priority ad, a guy that I would spend 15% or more of my fab budget on, and it's Rondale Moore. This guy finished the day 7 catches, 114 yards, and a touchdown for 20.9 points. He's now the Cardinals' leader in targets through 2 weeks, despite playing less than 50% of the snaps and playing alongside DeAndre Hopkins. It's insane. It's insane. I'd imagine he's going to go between 50 to 30% fab in your leagues. And here's the thing. Me and the patrons and I, we already got Rondale on the free last week. He was my number 1 wide receiver claim last week. I told everybody, go spend 10% of your fab on him. Don't go out there and grab Christian Kirk, Tim Patrick, Zach Pascal. Those guys, we're not going to be trying to grab guys that like are barely flexes. We want to swing for that upside. Rondale Moore has that upside. We want to prioritize that. So when we're chasing guys like Chase Claypool and T. Higgins from last year, Rondale Moore has that kind of upside. So I'm telling you guys, if you want to get the early scoop on next week's waiver wire ad, make sure you go check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart for my weekly waiver wire article with fab guidance, and then also my weekly rankings and a bunch of other stuff is all on there for literally $5. And that guy that I think is going to be next week's Rondale Moore is Elijah Moore. I think he's next up in line. I loved him as a prospect. He was my wide receiver 4 pre-draft. He's very good. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but AJ Brown was with him during the draft. AJ Brown was crying. He's like, bro, you're better than me, man. I could never do the stuff you do. I'm telling you, the kind of stamp of approval that Elijah Moore has, even though he was in an offense with DK Metcalf and AJ Brown at Ole Miss, he is that guy. When we saw that this week, he went from an 11.1% target share last week to a 24.2% target share this week. That is huge for a rookie. A 20% plus target share in any game for a rookie is massive. And if this breakout was ever going to happen, it's going to be next week. It's coming. So he's running a lot of routes. He ran the most routes on this team this week. Elijah Moore's breakout could be in the near future. Next up, we have Darnell Mooney. And I have no clue why he's on waivers. He was like a 9th rounder for me going into the offseason. I didn't even really expect to put him in this list when I, sat down to write this outline, because I assumed that he wouldn't be rostered in 49% of leagues on ESPN. And this is a guy that you're going to want on your team. He saw 8 targets yesterday, most by the team. I think Allen Robinson only saw 4. So we're looking at a scenario where Darnell Mooney is going to be featured in this offense. Now he's getting a quarterback upgrade because you have the Andy Dalton injury. We don't know for certain that Andy Dalton is out for this week, but in the event that he is, Justin Fields is going to come in and be that quarterback upgrade for him and Allen Robinson. So I like Darnell Mooney as a nice add. I would probably even splash a good little bit of fab on him. Now, a guy that we're going to sneak into this wide receiver list is Cordarelle Patterson. Cordarelle Patterson is probably a running back wherever he's listed, but I just wanted to sneak him in the wide receiver list because there's 5 wide receivers are tough to find. So we're going to put Cordarelle Patterson here, and whether he's a wide receiver or a running back in your league's settings or whatever, he's a great add. He was the RB4 on the week in PPR scoring, and he's a really fun player. I still don't really know what his true role looks like or kind of what his ceiling looks like, but he's played snaps at running back, wide receiver, quarterback. He's been producing in fantasy. Now, I don't think that the Falcons picked up Wayne Gallman just for him to be a last second healthy scratch every week. I think Wayne Gallman eventually works in as a running back. I could be wrong on that. So I tempered my expectations a little bit on Cordarelle Patterson, but you can kind of see the upside there as a guy that can catch passes, used to play wide receiver, but he's big. He's like he's probably like over 6 foot, like over 225, over 230 pounds. So he does have this really nice upside as a little bit more than a gadget guy. Now, our next and last wide receiver on this list is going to be a guy I'm only grabbing in really deep leagues, and even then probably not. It's KJ Osborn, and I understand the appeal. Most of my teams either have a stacked wide receiver room, or I'm just not in deep enough leagues where I would care about a KJ Osborn. But if you're out there, you're thin at wide receiver, I don't mind the KJ Osborn pickup. He's kind of taking advantage of Irv Smith's absence. He has 12 catches for 167 yards and a touchdown through 2 weeks. I'm still not sold. He wasn't a great prospect coming out, but I mean, those are some crazy numbers through 2 weeks. So you can kind of bet on that. I mean, it's not just like super fluky. I just don't see the upside. You know, like a Rondale Moore, I see the upside. Elijah Moore, I see the upside. With KJ Osborn, I don't know what that looks like in your flex spot, but if you can just add him or put out like $1 or $2 on him, I don't mind him as a pickup. Then we're going to go into my top 5 quarterbacks and tight ends. And up first, we're going to just have the Cleveland tight ends. Whoever's your flavor, Njoku or Hooper. I like Njoku because he's really athletic. I loved him coming out first round draft capital. And then you have Hooper, who has had like a tight end 1 finish before, a top 12 finish before. And both of them are top 6 in target share at tight end. Now we have Jarvis Landry missing time. And then we also have OBJ, who's been missing time. So this offense is going to just become, you know, tight end oriented almost, where they're running most of their plays out of 2 tight end formations. So with the wide receivers missing time, I don't mind stashing these Cleveland tight ends. And then we have Gerald Everett. And he didn't really do anything this week. I don't think that he even caught a pass. He might have had like a 1 target or something. But his route percentage is really encouraging. The problem was in week 1, the thing that was scary was that Everett ran 19 routes to Disley's 17 routes last week. So it was like this even split between the 2 tight ends, and neither of them were really coming out ahead besides Gerald Everett, you know, just kind of falling into the end zone on that 1 play. But this week, Everett really pulled out ahead. Everett had 28 routes to Disley's 11, which is really encouraging. It means that he's kind of sticking out as the pass-catching tight end. And I think that they had so much success with the wide receivers with Lockett and Metcalf this week, and Freddie Swain even had a good game, that they didn't target Gerald Everett as much. But moving forward, if Gerald Everett is going to be the main pass-catching tight end, and what we've seen with Russell Wilson and his tight ends in the past, I'm very interested in Gerald Everett off waivers. Then we're going to get into some quarterbacks here. And first up, we have Justin Fields, which is pretty simple. If Andy Dalton is gone, it is wheels all the way up for Justin Fields. We have been talking about him literally since the winter now. He is a stud prospect. He has been a great prospect every step of the way. He was on ESPN ahead of Trevor Lawrence coming out of high school. And then maybe some other stuff, he was like 2. But he was like 1 or 2 in his high school class. Goes to the college level. Sits a year because he's behind Jake Fromm. Stud at Ohio State. In the Heisman running behind Joe Burrow. Stud at Ohio State for his second year. Looked great across the board. Gets top 10 draft capital. He ran for as many yards in his last season per game as like a Dak Prescott, a Deshaun Watson, a Russell Wilson. He has that Konami code quarterback upside. He runs like a 4.4. He's insane. He has Allen Robinson to throw to, Mooney, Cole Kmet. He has all the weapons in the world. All we need is for Matt Nagy not to shove Andy Dalton in there, and Justin Fields becomes an instant plug and play, you know, QB8 or better, in my opinion. Then, you know, 2 quarterbacks where these aren't run to the waiver wire and go grab these guys, but if you're slim at quarterback, you need to stream some options. I like Derek Carr, who's the QB8. He's looked good as long as he's healthy. He had like an ankle problem, but we've now seen him beat the Steelers and the Ravens, which is pretty crazy. Like Derek Carr might just be a really good quarterback in real life. And then we have Daniel Jones, who is kind of a Konami code quarterback in of itself. And I know a lot of people like to meme on him for, you know, taking that 1 super long run and then falling flat on his face. Here's the thing, man. If you are out there as a white quarterback and you get behind the entire defense, I don't care if you fall flat on your face. He is fast. He is a very fast quarterback. I know that his 40 time isn't even that great, but these quarterbacks, they don't train for the 40 time. They don't get with their trainer and they put the hand in the dirt and they care about that. Because the time doesn't matter, they don't care about technique and the form and all that, and they don't care about getting a fast time on there. So Daniel Jones is like deceptively very fast. He's a fast quarterback. He's mobile. He's also, him being mobile is the reason why Saquon hasn't been getting as many targets. So Daniel Jones is in this spot where he is going to get the rushing yardage to be a pretty startable fantasy quarterback week in, week out. He's already the quarterback 4 on the season. Now that's going to do it for us today. If I left anybody out, let me know down below in the comments. If there's anybody that you disagree with, you know, Rondale Moore being the top waiver wire ad, I doubt you guys do, but let me know down below in the comments. We're going to come out with a trade targets video tomorrow. I'm going to sign off here because I'm going to go upstairs and watch the Monday Night Football game. It's literally, like 8 p.m. right now? I don't know. I can't see. It's 8:15 p.m. So kickoff's about to happen. As always, fellas, go down below, subscribe, leave a like. We're coming out with this content every single day. Like I said, trade targets tomorrow. As always, love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Yup.